Good evening, I'm Laurie Johnson. Welcome to Houston Public Media's new web series, Political Perspectives. Every week I'll be joined by show commentators Jay Iyer and Brandon Rottinghouse to discuss all things political. Tonight we'll continue the conversation from Red, White, and Blue about the discussion with 4 of the mayoral candidates. So let's get started, Jay and Brandon. One of the first things I felt like I noticed sort of a theme running through the evening was that they were sort of running against the city at some points rather than each other. They kept complaining about the way the city does certain things. I expected them to kind of go at each other a little bit more.
Yeah, I think by and large that theme is true. I mean, they were talking about the need for more transparency. They were talking about the inefficiencies that seem to exist in government. I mean, in many ways, I think all of them are viewing it as a change election. The idea that we need to have substantive change to go on in the city, right? We've got substantial financial problems, issues with police, and those issues require a different approach. And I think that's what each of them was trying to sell.
I even heard them talking about pay to play, that kind of thing, bringing up some issues that sort of would throw things back on maybe Mayor Parker rather than their opponents sitting right next to them.
Yeah, I mean, if it were a change election like nationally, it would be much more vicious. I think it's in a way a good thing that we've got a reasonable conversation. People disagree about how to make things work and how to make it better, but there's still a reasonable amount of interaction that makes it overall kind of an adjustable policy that can be done. So I think that because Mayor Parker is pretty popular, people don't want to use that as a leverage against her and try to suggest that the city is going in the wrong direction. But there are big problems for the city, and these are the things that the next mayor has to deal with. I think part of the thing that they need to be more clear about is just where the fear should be, right? I mean, voters are really going to have to think about serious concerns going forward, and I think a lot of people are still unsure about what those problems look like. So maybe using this as a change election is the best way to frame all this together.
So what stood out to you guys tonight?
Well, a couple of things. One, I thought that there was a clear sort of attempt, I think, by Bill King and Sylvester Turner to really show some sharp contrast between each other, whether particularly on the issue of pensions, between the question of defined benefit versus defined contribution.
What does that mean?
Okay, right, because that comes up all the time. So a defined benefit plan is one in which a municipal employee, it's primarily in the public sector, where that specific benefit or what the pension is going to be is determined beforehand. It's a function of what your salary is over time. A defined contribution is that there's no guaranteed benefit, but it's money you put in. In the private sector, it's really analogous to a 401k, what most people have. So what Bill King is arguing for is a transition to a defined contribution system. Sylvester Turner is arguing, look, that's not even the question. It's not defined benefit, defined contribution. We have large systemic financial issues. So it's set up for a really interesting contrast and kind of the fundamental approach of how you see city government working in the city finances. And I think we saw, if the polling is right, a little bit of that preview of what we might see in a potential runoff if these two guys are in that runoff, because they are the sharpest contrast in terms of, at least on financial issues.
Yeah, I like that they both got into some deeper discussion about things that were going on in the city, and especially in outlining priorities. I mean, and for Turner, I think we saw him talking passionately about discrimination and about how HERO is important because it relates to our kind of fundamental values. That suggests a kind of priority for him in the administration, right? And that connects to issues about social justice, connects to issues about police brutality, connects to issues about income inequality. That's something that he, would certainly would be adept at maneuvering. The same is true for King, right? King says we shouldn't be talking about HERO. It's a small issue in comparison to the other kind of issues we deal with, especially crime issues, right? Which oftentimes go unsolved. And so for him, we have a different perspective. And so there's really, I think, some contrast there in terms of what they think is important. But the fact that they are developing these priorities gives you some flavor for where they're going to be and what they're going to do as mayor.
Well, what's interesting to me is that so much of the focus has been on HERO in the mayoral race when really the voters are the ones who decide. Whoever wins as mayor is going to deal with whatever the voters do. They won't get to make the decision themselves. So it kind of doesn't matter where they personally stand on the issue, does it?
No. I mean, that's really a good point. I mean, ultimately, HERO is going to be at the fate of the ballot box. So their job is going to be to sort of deal with the aftermath of it, whether it needs to come back as a new ordinance if it loses, or whether it's enforced. But yeah, I mean, I think the big issue is both these guys, I think, are reflective of the larger questions of the long-term financial issues in the city, the infrastructure of the city, crime in the city. So I think they're really wanting to talk about what I think most people want to talk about. That's happening out there.
So let's go back to something that's just such a thrilling topic, which is pensions. Our viewers are falling asleep as we speak, but they brought up an interesting point tonight about Turner, whether since he got the police and fire union endorsements, whether he really could be an effective agent of change when it comes to reforming the pensions. Does that hamper him if he tries to modify the pension system?
A little bit, but the fact is that most everyone's going to be hampered by something, right? This pension issue is not just a financial issue, it's also a political issue. And so Turner is no different in some ways than the others. But of course, he's got pressures, and his coalition is going to be interested in finding a particular solution to the pension issue. So he's got pressures, but everybody has pressures. So I don't think it's unique to him. But I think the other thing that we saw here is just that they all have different solutions about how to go about this, right? Local control versus not local control. Sylvester Turner says we need to have a fixed plan. We need to have ideas on paper and then take that to the legislature to make them think about it. I think that's probably the right thing to do, because I don't know that this is a legislature or this is a political climate in Texas where we're going to see the legislature give wholesale control to a particular municipality, especially like Houston. So we have to find a way around this. So in a way, that I think gives us some formulation too about where they might work the pension issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real interesting contrast in sort of the experiences of the two of them, right? So when you look at Turner, 26-year member of the Texas legislature, understands the political process, especially in Austin, probably better than anyone. His argument fundamentally is, look, you're not going to be able to do anything unless you can get these guys to the table, whether that's the unions and the legislature. And the only way to do that is to basically sort of bring them in. So his argument is, look, you have to change the process in a global way. You bring them to the table, you make those changes, and it makes no sense to attempt to force a plan that they would immediately sort of be DOA for them. King's argument, which is a correct financial argument that he's trying to make, is, look, you've got to change the fundamental issue, right? You've got to have a defined contribution system. You've got to take a different approach. And he's looking for something larger than that. So they're both taking at it from sort of two directions.
Politics versus finance.
Right, politics versus finance. And I think it's interesting because we're set up for a really sharp contrast. Both could be really right on this. It's just a difference in approach. The one interesting thing I would say is I think there's an argument to be made, at least for Turner, that he has sort of this Nixon to China argument, right? That he can get the unions to make concessions that other people can't, because he has been willing to play ball with them and basically be their ally in the short term. Whether that's true or not, I think is up for question. But I think that's certainly part of the argument. At least that's the argument he's trying to put out.
So we're only a few days away from the election, and obviously everybody has been saying we'll end up in a runoff. But still, I was kind of expecting to just see more fireworks, more fire, more passion. Is it just that they're tired at this point?
I suspect that they are. I mean, they're tired like we are talking about pensions, right? Which people are, turning off of. But the fact is that we're at the end of a very long race, and they've done this so much that you can see the wariness. But I think too that it suggests that there is a kind of staidness to it, right? The kind of solutions that we'd like to put forth are unknown, right? How do we solve the pension problem? How do we solve the police problem, right? The bigger financial issues that are going to come are simply too many to really lay out in a small format like that. So this, I think, creates a problem of trying to really articulate exactly what they would like to do. And for the rest of us, we're sort of left thinking, well, what do we make of all of this? So.
Yeah, I think the struggle at this point is I'm still looking at these candidates going, I don't know who has the best ideas.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think what I would say is they've all got some pretty interesting ideas. And I think one of the upsides of 65 plus forums that they've been together is they all can kind of internalize each other's messages to some extent. I think you have some contrast, but what we saw, I think, and during Red, White, and Blue was that there really are sort of similarities and themes that they all run, right? I mean, whether it relates to the pension system, whether it relates to HERO, there's an approach that I think some want to take and an approach that others want to take. And that part, I think, is what we'll see. But yeah, I think we're set up for a really interesting runoff. I think in the runoff is when you might see more, I think, of that hard contrast.
Okay, well, don't forget to vote if you haven't done it already. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. I appreciate it. And thank you for joining us. Remember to log on to houstonpublicmedia.org/perspectives every Friday night at 8 p.m. following the 7:30 broadcast of Red, White, and Blue. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next week.